I cheated on my husband and was then blackmailed to do it again, and then. This one gets pretty intense. Let me know if you make it to the end. Here we go. The guilt gnaws at me. I'm not usually a person who divulges her darkest secrets on the internet, but I don't know where else to turn. I have no one I can share this with, not without causing damage that I fear would be irrevocable. So, to all of you faceless souls reading this confession, thank you. Thank you for being the outlet that I desperately need. Let me provide a bit of context. My husband is an incredible man, kind, understanding, hardworking, loyal. He's the type of man who brings you a hot cup of tea in bed when you're not feeling well, who will sit and patiently listen to you rant about work after a hard day. He's always there for me, supporting me in ways that I never thought possible, and for some inexplicable reason, he loves me. He loves me more than I thought anyone ever could. One night, about 3 weeks ago, I went out with a group of girlfriends to a local bar. It was supposed to be a low-key, relaxing night, a chance to decompress after a long week of work. But instead, it turned out to be the beginning of my deepest regret. The bar was dimly lit, a mix of rustic and industrial decor scattered throughout. The hum of low chatter and occasional laughter provided a soothing backdrop as I sipped my wine, chatting and laughing with my friends. That's when I first noticed him, the man who would unknowingly become the epicenter of my guilt and regret. He was at the far end of the bar, nursing a whiskey on the rocks. He was the kind of man who commanded attention without trying. He had an aura about him, the kind that made you feel like you were the only person in the room when he spoke to you. And when his eyes, a soft, alluring hazel, met mine, I felt a pull I can't describe. As he approached, I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. He was tall, with dark hair that was slightly disheveled, adding to his rugged charm. His smile was easy and charming, his voice low and enticing. "May I join you ladies?" he asked, his gaze focused solely on me. I remember my friends giggling, teasing me, but their voices faded into the background. What followed was an evening of laughter, thrilling flirtation, and an underlying tension that seemed to electrify the air around us. There was something about him, something irresistibly magnetic. I was drawn to him like a moth to a flame, knowing full well it could end in ruin. I recall making a flimsy excuse to my friends, something about forgetting my phone charger at home and promising to be back shortly. But instead, I found myself drawn towards him, like he was gravity and I was helpless against his pull. It was a single night, a fleeting moment of weakness in a nondescript hotel room. A night filled with passion, with stolen glances and hushed whispers. A night that I knew would forever be etched into my memory. And then, just as swiftly as he had entered my life, he was gone, leaving behind nothing but a twisted knot of guilt and regret in my stomach. When I got home, my husband was waiting up for me. I remember his smile, the warmth in his eyes when he saw me. It was a familiar look, one that had always made me feel loved, cherished. But this time, it only fueled my guilt. I mumbled something about being tired and retreated to our bedroom. I could barely stand the sight of my own reflection in the mirror, much less bear the thought of facing him. So, I slipped under the covers, my back turned towards him, trying to steady my erratic heartbeat. My husband soon followed, laying down beside me with a soft sigh. He stretched an arm around my waist, pulling me close against his chest, his usual nighttime ritual. As he started to stroke my arm with his fingertips, a soothing pattern he'd discovered years ago that helped me sleep, I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. Each soft, loving touch was like a knife through my heart. How did I end up here? What had driven me to betray the man who had given me nothing but love and respect? Tears started to trickle down my face, dampening the pillow beneath. But I didn't dare to make a sound, afraid that he might hear my sobs. Instead, I lay there, silently crying, with him holding me close, unknowing of the transgression his wife had committed. Each night since has been the same. A ritual of guilt, tears, and silent confessions whispered into the darkness. My heart aches with the weight of my secret. I am trapped, caught between the desire to confess and the fear of hurting him, shattering the trust we've built over years. This guilt has become my constant companion, following me like a shadow during the day, and morphing into a cruel, insidious whisper in the dark, solitary hours of the night. It taints every moment we share, every laugh, every kiss. I can't look at him without seeing the hurt that my confession would cause, the disappointment and betrayal that would surely replace the love in his eyes. The man from the bar, he was charming, yes. He was attractive, alluring even. But he was not my husband. He did not hold me when I was upset. He did not make me laugh when I was down. He did not know the contours of my soul like my husband does. It was a moment of temptation, of weakness, that has now become my greatest regret. I realize now that fleeting moment of thrill and desire wasn't worth the pain and guilt I carry now. So, I'm left with a dilemma that feels insurmountable. Do I shatter the heart of the man I love, revealing my betrayal, or do I remain silent, letting this guilt consume me from the inside? I am caught in a storm of my own making, with no clear path in sight. This is my confession, my plea for advice, for understanding. I am a woman who betrayed her husband, her own heart. I am a woman lost in a sea of guilt and regret. I am a woman desperately seeking a way to make things right, to heal the wounds I've inflicted upon myself and, unknowingly, upon my husband. Update number 1. In the wake of my confession, I was naive enough to believe that the worst part was over, that the guilt was the only demon I had to battle. I was so wrong. The man I had thought was out of my life came back with a vengeance that has left me feeling even more cornered, even more lost. Just days after I shared my story with all of you, he reappeared. The messages started out innocent enough, a few texts here, a couple of calls there. I deleted them, blocked his number, hoping that would be the end of it. But he was relentless. He kept making new profiles, new accounts, using different numbers to get past the blocks. I received a bouquet of flowers at work one day with a note that made my blood run cold. His intentions were clear. All I had to do was meet him, spend one more night with him, and he would disappear, never to contact me again. But if I refused, he subtly suggested he'd make sure my husband knew about our past indiscretion. It felt like blackmail. It felt like my world was closing in on me. The guilt, the fear, the confusion, it all became too much to bear. So, in my desperation, I gave in. I decided to meet him one more time, in the hopes that it would finally put an end to this relentless harassment. He had booked an upscale hotel suite, a large, luxurious room with an atmosphere that was clearly designed for one thing only: a night of intense intimacy, of acts that were meant to sate his desires, his twisted sense of satisfaction. He brought all kinds of extras, things to use to intensify the experience, if you know what I mean. I felt like a puppet, moving through the motions, succumbing to his every whim and command. Each touch, each moment spent with him was a cruel reminder of my betrayal, of my weakness. It was a night filled with false promises and hollow whispers, a night that left me feeling emptier than before. It was a night I hoped would buy my freedom from this never-ending torment. After it was all over, I looked at him with tears in my eyes and told him that this was now over and to leave me alone. He just smiled an unnerving smile and said, "Have it your way," and then I walked out the door. Now, I find myself in a nerve-wracking state of uncertainty. He promised he would leave me alone, that my husband would never know. But can I really trust him? The man who has blackmailed me, manipulated me into succumbing to his wishes. The man who, in his own twisted way, has taken advantage of my guilt and fear. I am on pins and needles, wondering if this nightmare is finally over. Wondering if I have done enough to keep my secret safe. Wondering if he is truly out of my life now. The guilt feels more crippling than ever. It's not just the guilt of the affair anymore, but also the guilt of what I've done to keep it a secret. As I write this, I can't help but feel a sense of dread. A sense of uncertainty. My world feels like it's hanging by a thread, and I'm left wondering if my decisions have done more harm than good. Final update. I never thought it could get any worse. I had hoped, prayed that he would keep his promise, but he didn't. Yesterday, another bouquet of flowers arrived at my work, and my heart sank. A note was nestled within the petals, his handwriting dancing cruelly across the page. He had told my husband everything. Not only had he confessed to the affair, but he had also sent my husband a link to a video from our last encounter. My stomach churned at the thought. How could I have been so naive, so easily manipulated? With the note crumpled in my fist, I drove home, the world seeming to blur around me. I prayed that it wasn't true, that this was just another twisted game he was playing. But deep down, I knew. I knew that my life was about to crumble. As I pulled into the driveway, my husband's car was parked in its usual spot. But the house, our home, felt different. As I walked in, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. I found my husband in our living room, his eyes swollen, an unreadable expression on his face. The man I cheated with was not just an opportunist. He was a monster, a sadistic individual who derived pleasure from ruining marriages. He was a man who used charm and manipulation as weapons, who took delight in causing pain. And I had fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. The silence was deafening as I entered the room. I tried to speak, to apologize, to explain, but my husband raised his hand, signaling me to stop. His eyes were cold, a stark contrast to the warm, loving gaze I was so used to. "I've seen the video, I've heard his side," he said quietly. "Now, I need to hear it from you." As I sat there, confessing every horrible detail, watching as my husband's face contorted in pain, I knew I had lost him. He had always been my rock, my safe place, my love. But now, he looked at me as if he was seeing a stranger. He filed for divorce. He couldn't bear to be in the same room as me, let alone the same house. A promise of forever love was shattered, replaced by the harsh reality of betrayal. My life, our life together, had been ruined. My husband, the man I loved, the man I respect more than anyone else, now sees me as a cheater, a traitor. I feel like a complete tramp, degraded by the nature of the video, my actions laid bare for him to see. As I pen down this update, I am alone, swimming in a sea of regret. A sense of dread hangs over me like a dark cloud. I made a stupid mistake, a catastrophic decision, and now I have lost everything. The house feels cold, empty without him. Our pictures still hang on the walls, but they now serve as cruel reminders of a love lost, a trust broken. I have lost my husband, my partner, my best friend. All I can say is this: the guilt, the regret is overwhelming. It is a heavy burden that I will carry for the rest of my life. My confession, my story, ends here, but the consequences of my actions will follow me forever. I hope that sharing this will serve as a stark reminder to others. One moment of weakness can lead to a lifetime of regret. Please don't make the same mistakes I did. Wow, that story was painful and intense. That must have felt horrible for both of them, but especially for the husband, if he really is as noble and good as she describes him. What do you think of this story? What should she have told the man when he petitioned her a second time? What would you do in her or her husband's shoes? Let me know in the comments below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threats.